Tuonesheni mtupe watoto wetu.
Sehemu za ibada ni lazima ziheshimiwe.
The outcry continues. But were children in the mosque for rice or for terror lessons?
The main problem is that the signs and symptoms sometimes mirror other clinical problems.
Fighting cancer, why it is crucial to have an early test.
12 billion shillings more for the underprivileged, but how much can 2,000 shillings buy?
Bowing to pressure, why Kabogo apologized to women.
This is KTN Prime with Nancy Kacungira and Ben Kitili.
Good evening from the Standard Group Center here in Nairobi, and thank you for joining us on KTN Prime.
Yes, great to have you with us, and we begin tonight with an update on the situation in Mombasa. Now, the Masjid Musa Mosque remained peaceful after some chaos, but both parents and Muslim leaders are now finding it hard to explain why children were caught in the melee. KTN's Ferdinand Omondi now joins us live from Mombasa. Ferdi, what is the latest from that mosque?
Good evening, Nancy. Well, for the first straight day ever since the raid at the Mosque of Musa, leaders have given very sharp and mixed reactions towards whatever happened. There's a good deal of people who feel the police were very brutal in their approach, and have also chastised them for having entered the mosque. But also have another group of leaders now asking what children were doing there in the first place. And now the question that emerges is where do parents fall and guardians in this role of guiding their children down the well-trodden path of righteousness? Now, this is a story I did and sought opinion from opinion leaders. 125 in the dock. Several of them are minors. The charges: engaging in terrorism activities at the Musa Mosque in Mombasa. They will spend 5 days in remand with grown men suspected to be sympathetic to terrorism. The role of minors in terror remains a hot topic, and the manner in which police handled Sunday's operation when they stormed the mosque is still attracting heated reactions.
There's nowhere in the world ambapo ideological war has been won through force. Hakuna.
You see, this is a group which was properly prepared for war, you see, to terrorize. And if the government allows that to continue, then it will be chaos, not only in Mombasa, but in the entire country.
If the government of Kenya is sincere about tackling the problem of violence, extremism, radicalization, and the rest, then the government should not be seen as if it is retaliating, but the government should be seen as applying the law.
But on this day, a different voice joined the fray. The Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya, while equally disappointed with police for storming Masjid Musa, are wondering what children were doing there in the first place.
Inapasa watoto kama wale wawe madrasa, haswa siku ya Jumapili kama ile ambayo ilioshikwa, ilikuwa wawe msikitini madrasa wakisoma dini ya haki na ya ukweli, dini ya Uislamu.
Parents claim their children were attracted to the Sunday seminar when organizers promised attendants a feast of biryani, a popular rice delicacy here. But critics of the seminar believe the feast was a smokescreen to lure many minors before the real agenda took place, which police maintain was the radicalization of young minds. This notion brings in the role of parents in guiding their children. CIPK feels some parents may have placed too much faith in preachers, some of whom are now pawning the children to dangerous practices.
Kuna watu wanawatumia hawa watoto kwa maslahi yao na agenda zao za siri wao wenyewe wanazozijua. Wajua hata ukimwona shekhe au kasisi au padri au nani, yeye watoa mawaidha, lakini kuna wakati na yeye pia ataka apawe mawaidha pia. Waambie bwana, mimi naona wewe mzee au wewe shekhe au wewe padri au pastor, hii njia si sawa sawa. Mimi naona hapa kidogo kuna kasoro fulani.
Masjid Musa and Masjid Sakina have gained notoriety in recent times in the war on terror. Practically every disruption that has rocked Mombasa in the past year has involved faithful of Masjid Musa. Sakina Mosque followed suit recently when a section of radical youth reportedly ejected Sheikh Mohammed and his leaders and took over the reins. Police believe both mosques are now sympathetic to terror groups and radical preachers, and CIPK has been on the receiving end for their perceived soft stance.
Tujaribuni tutafute njia ya kuweza kutatua jambo hili kuliko kuanza kulaumu na kuanza kuona viongozi wa kidini wapita kuwaita wanafiki, kuwaita wasaliti. Hilo sio suluhisho.
County Commissioner Nelson Mara also accused Mombasa leaders of playing to the public gallery instead of offering leadership. A long-standing discussion to form a new committee to run the Musa Mosque has failed to launch. Now they want to try that again. Now, there appears to be mutual suspicion between the leaders, so it is very easy for them. There's a unanimous agreement that people need to sit down and talk and get down to dialogue, but there is mutual suspicion between the religious leaders and the police, and even the youth and the police. So while all agree that dialogue is the best way to solve this, it appears there is not one person ready to make that first move, and that's what everybody is waiting for. Nancy.
All right, Ferdinand. Well, as we've seen, opinion is still divided on whether the children who were caught in the middle were actually there for biryani or for the radicalization. So what do you think might actually end up being the fate of these children now?
Well, the county commissioner yesterday said that age will not be a factor in determining who is guilty or is innocent. They already present before court, and all who are charged with being involved in terrorist-related activities. Police were granted 5 days to continue the investigations. Those who are found to have actually gone there for biryani or pilau, whatever it is, they said they will be set free. But the county commissioner said that those who will have been found to have been, or who have a case to answer, suspected of being involved in terror activities, will face the full force of the law. And in as much as now the parents and some of these leaders want them released, it does appear that while some will go home scot-free, some will be charged with the adults who are now currently in remand with them at Shimona Tower. Nancy.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening, Ferdinand. That's Ferdinand in Mombasa, updating us on the situation at the Masjid Musa Mosque.
Now, staying with that story on the raid on the Masjid Musa, the Jamia Mosque Committee has accused the police of allegedly using excessive force and engaging in gross violation of human rights. The Muslim leaders, led by Jamia Mosque Assistant Secretary General Ibrahim Lethome, questioned why the police allowed the meeting to take place the whole morning and only invaded it after the 1 o'clock prayers.
Speaking at Jamia Mosque in Nairobi, the Muslim leaders said they were disturbed by the Sunday violent clashes between the police and a group of youth at the Masjid Musa Mosque in Majengo, Mombasa. According to police, the mayhem resulted into 2 deaths, though human rights activists put the death toll to at least 6. Several people were also injured, including a police officer. The Muslim leaders insist that though they appreciate the government has a primary responsibility of protecting people and property, the police responded with excessive force.
We cannot afford to keep silent to the fact that the police used excessive force in disrupting the meeting. There was also gross violation of human and children's rights.
The Muslim leaders maintained the preparation for the meeting was known to the security agents who allowed it to go on up to midday before surrounding the mosque to stop the meeting. However, that assertion differs with the authorities' explanation for the confrontation.
And the timing when they came in, which was immediately after 1 o'clock, that is immediately after the midday prayers, which means that even innocent passers-by who are Muslims, I included, could have gone to the mosque for prayers.
Police officers moved to the scene as early as 10 in the morning, just trying to talk to them to come out. They refused, and they were armed.
They proposed that a meeting with all Muslim leaders and other stakeholders should be urgently convened to find a lasting solution to the problem of radicalization of youth, not only in Mombasa, but also the whole country.
We do not agree with any person, we want to repeat again, Muslim or non-Muslims, to perpetrate violence.
The National Security Advisory Committee, under the chairmanship of Secretary to the Cabinet Francis Kimemia, on Monday discussed the chaos in Mombasa. The committee is said to have brainstormed the possibility of closing down Masjid Musa Mosque in Mombasa, which is suspected to be indoctrinating youth.
No mosque should be closed, but the government should remain vigilant to ensure law and order is maintained.
The Muslim leaders asked the youth to remain calm as the leadership seeks a lasting solution. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Well, our big Q this evening comes off the back of that story, and we'd like to find out whether you think that the minors who were arrested at the Masjid Musa Mosque should be released.
As we continue to follow this story up for you, tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no opinion, plus a brief comment to the number 22155. You can tweet us as well at Ben_Kitili, at Kacungira, and at KTN Kenya. We shall be sampling those views during this live newscast and give you the poll results at the tail end of this live bulletin.
Right, now moving on, a section of ODM leaders have described those who dropped out of the race for ODM's party positions as cowards, whose chances were negligible in the first place. But the ODM Young Turks have threatened to move to another party if the forthcoming ODM elections are not handled fairly. Sam Ogina now reports.
ODM sent out the boldest statement underpinning the fragile balance within the Orange Party, a statement that exposes the fault lines within the party, branding those who quit the ODM leadership race as cowards.
In my culture, we have a saying that the fact that you are poor does not mean that when you pass a butchery, you don't wish you could buy the meat. Maybe they were just wishing they could buy the meat. They were passing a butchery and they were wishing if I had enough money, I would buy the meat.
At least 5 Nyanza leaders have shelved their quest to contest for the ODM leadership positions. Those who bailed out majorly accusing the party leader Raila Odinga of muddying the waters for them. A handful of those remaining in the race from the region are perceived key Raila allies and confidants.
My home and the Prime Minister's home is only 14 kilometers apart. In fact, as a young man, I would walk from my home to Bondo on foot. So if someone has assessed his chances and found them to be nil, let him not try to besmirch the name of the party.
ODM is a national party. It is not a Nyanza party. It is not a Luo party. It is not a Lohia party. It's not a coastal party. It's a national party. It's a Kenyan party.
After recoiling on their quest to seize power from the old guards, the Young Turks are back on the drawing board, strategizing on how to upset the status quo. The Young Bloods have adopted a bottom-to-up strategy based on developing their constituencies and using development as a springboard to outsmart the old guards.
Lazima sisi pia we must swell our hands, and if taking government over requires strategies that we don't have, we must learn them. And that's why those who are saying young people don't know anything, I want to tell them today that we know something, and this something that we know, they'll be seeing this in the coming days.
The Young Turks nonetheless blasted the Raila Odinga axis, claiming they were laying down defeatist strategies that cost the party the presidential seat. The leaders say they will not shy away from embracing the Jubilee leadership in their constituency.
If the race is about stealing, then you must also learn to steal so that the best thief wins. Yeah, we can't be crying year in, year out tumeibiwa. Kama shida ni kuiba, sisi pia tunoe visu, tujue mambo ya kuiba.
ODM releases the list of all the 87 contestants on Wednesday as it prepares to order for ballot papers for the February 28th party polls. ODM faces a defining moment that will put to test the unity of the party, coming just days after the latest opinion poll ranked the giant party second, and with disenchantment from a section of ODM leaders, is the orange gradually transforming into a bitter lemon. Samogina, KTN at Orange House, Nairobi.
Well, the Orange Party will come to the test in a month's time when the party's delegates converge at the Kasarani Stadium on the 28th of February to the 1st of March for the party's national election. Let's switch gears now. In a section of senior citizens in Murang'a County say the 2,000 shillings the government has introduced in the cash transfer program is better than nothing and will help meet a few of their basic needs. Betty Kello reports tonight that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto launched the 12 billion shilling Inua Jamii program. program, amid questions over ghost beneficiaries.
Right, now moving on, a section of ODM leaders have described those who dropped out of the race for ODM's party positions as cowards, whose chances were negligible in the first place. But the ODM Young Turks have threatened to move to another party if the forthcoming ODM elections are not handled fairly. Sam Ogina now reports.
ODM 453,000 Kenyans who cannot put food on the table will now benefit from the newly launched Inua Jamii program. The government project, which is aimed at poverty reduction and development, will be financed by a 12 billion shillings kitty in the current financial budget. The 12 billion shilling program targets up to 253,000 orphans and vulnerable children, 164,000 elderly persons, and 27,000 people living with severe disability. Those eligible for the program will receive 2,000 shillings monthly to meet food costs. Just last month, during the standard serialization of the scandals involving the cash transfer system, Labour Cabinet Secretary Kacungira revealed the cash transfer program lost about 600 million shillings to ghost recipients in the last 5 years. He said an audit launched last year had flushed out 1,400 ghost beneficiaries from the disability component of the fund. Each deserving household will get about 2,000 shillings, but even for this meager sum, some recipients are happy.
Na watoto hakuna msamba, lakini hii pesa inasaidia kwa shida ya ngaragu, kwa shida ya njaa.
Hii mradi kama inanifikia inaweza kunisaidia kwa sababu mimi sina msaidizi. Njani inanisidi.
Ameconsider watu ambao ni wako na matatizo mbalimbali.
With the population of Kenya at 40 million, it is estimated that about 46.7% of Kenyans are poor and cannot meet the cost of food and basic commodities. Betty Kyalo, KTN.
Well, experts now say that 4 out of every 10 cancer cases are actually preventable. But many people discover the cancer too late because they do not go for checkups. And this came out during today's activities to mark the World Cancer Day. Sharon Mumanyi brings us this report.
Wanaumia sana. Hakuna matibabu yake ya bure. Watuonee tu huruma kama wale wagonjwa wengine.
Sionzile Mutinda's cry is just but one among those of scores of other cancer patients in Kenya who decry the cost of managing and accessing treatment for the disease.
Sadly, there are many people in our country who cannot afford to go for regular checkups such as mammograms, pap smears, and PSA tests. I would like to urge the public and private sector to work together to avail basic screening to Kenyans, especially in rural areas and informal settlements.
The cost of the disease is just but one of the problems. A crucial impediment in the fight against cancer in the country is late detection.
About 80% of reported cases of cancer in Kenya are diagnosed at advanced stages, when the treatment is costly and prognosis poor.
The Cabinet Secretary for Health, James Macharia, was speaking at the Cancer Day celebration in Eldoret town, where hundreds of people stood patiently in long queues in order to get screened for cancer. This was a gesture towards fighting the myth that cancer is a death sentence, which comes with no warning and no signs. Dr. Sipna Mwanzi, one of the few oncologists in the country, based at the Aga Khan Cancer Center, emphasizes the need for regular screening as a preventive measure.
The main problem is that the signs and symptoms sometimes mirror other clinical problems, so people don't realize the seriousness of the symptoms. And sometimes people think that these are normal things that are happening. So you get the cancer early, which means that the treatments are less, the treatments required may be potentially less, the cost to the patient is less, and you have a higher chance of cure for this patient.
Cancer prevalence in the country is at an alarming high. In 2013, 22,000 Kenyans succumbed to cancer, where 28,000 were diagnosed with the disease. Statistics indicate that over 40% of cancers in the country are preventable. Further, Kenya has only 10 cancer specialists against a global recommendation of 300 oncologists per population of 100,000.
My ministry, in collaboration with partners in both public and private sector, is in the process of improving the cancer prevention and control infrastructure and increasing the number of cancer specialists, which is currently very low and concentrated in the cities.
The cancer campaign this year aimed to dispel commonly held myths about the disease. It is clear that the major battlefield in the fight against cancer is the mind. It is crucial for all to recognize that a cancer diagnosis is not a life sentence. It is also crucial for all Kenyans to recognize the worrying trend of cancer prevalence and thus choose to live healthy lifestyles. Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
40% of cancer cases can be prevented. Amazing statistic. Now, the ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda and President Uhuru Kenyatta's defense team will face off tomorrow at the status conference to determine the way forward in this seemingly struggling case against Kenyatta. KTN's Edith Kimani has been following happenings at The Hague.
Approximately 10 a.m. tomorrow in the Netherlands, that's about 12:30 p.m. in Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta's defense team, Fatou Bensouda's prosecution team, together with lawyers representing victims of the post-election violence, will converge at the International Criminal Court for what is known as a status conference. I'm just going to give you a breakdown of what's expected to happen. It's meant to start at 12:30, go on for an unspecified amount of time, take a break at around 4:30 p.m. Kenyan time, and it's expected to continue until about 6:30 in the evening. In these proceedings, we're expecting to see President Uhuru Kenyatta's defense team say why they want to terminate the case entirely. We do know from previous reports and from the applications they have made that they want the case terminated because they're saying that Fatou Bensouda's team simply does not have enough evidence. In fact, they have gone as far as say that she is dragging on the case and the process, knowing full well that in the end she will not have the evidence required to complete the case. Fatou Bensouda is then expected to come in after that and explain how far she has gone with the investigations. In fact, in a statement sent to newsrooms, the trial chamber, rather the ICC, said that they are specifically looking to see what investigative steps she has taken with regard to President Uhuru Kenyatta's case. After that, both sides, that's the lawyers representing President Uhuru Kenyatta and Fatou Bensouda's team, will discuss the applications that have been made by Fatou Bensouda. It's also important to note that this is going to be the date when President Uhuru's case was meant to commence. Will President Uhuru Kenyatta be present? No, he has been excused from the status conference, with the judges saying that he is not required to be there for this. Remember, this is coming against the back of an application that he had made seeking excusal from trial, which he was granted. It's also going to be the first time that we're going to see a new judge on the table. It's going to be Judge Jeffrey Henderson, who is coming in to replace Chile Eboyo Suji, who just stepped away from the case recently. And we're going to be keeping an eye on that story and giving you all the details as and when they do develop. I'm Edith Kimani for KTN.
Thank you, Edith. Now, closer to home, Kiambu Governor William Kabogo has bowed to pressure and issued an apology over remarks that he made which were seen to disparage single women. The governor asked for forgiveness from those who he may have offended through his statements that is believed to have been directed towards his critic, Member of Parliament Alice Ng'ang'a.
2 Corinthians. Sorry, Chronicles 7 mstari ya 14 tuseme inasema ifuatayo: If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal the land. Siwaende jameni wakaandike tu hiyo tu peke yake, hakuna mengine.
Kama gavana ameomba hiyo msamaha, kila mtu ajihisi ya kwamba wakati wa vita umeisha.
Humble pie for breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Looks that way. You're watching KTN Prime, and just to remind you, our big Q this evening, we're asking you whether you think that the miners arrested at the Masjid Musa Mosque should actually be released.
Join the conversation. Tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no opinion to the number 2215, as well as you can tweet us at Ben_Kitili, at Kacungira, and at KTN Kenya. Shall be looking at your comments during this live newscast. You're watching KTN Prime. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll now take a quick break, but don't go too far. We'll be back shortly with more news. Tell us how you got the cars. Senator dares governor.
Kitu ambacho kitatufaidi kwa kilimo cha miwa ni factory yenyewe, machine yenyewe. Ingurume hapa, miwa yote itoke hapa. Sisi hata ambao tuko karibu, tuwe kama wale watu wa Mumias, ya kwamba wale wako karibu na factoria kwa scheme ya factory, tuwe katika zero zone. Tuwe hatukatwi transport ili miwa hii itufaidi.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Welcome back to KTN Prime.
Now, after the fanfare that greeted the launch of the comprehensive security program for the county of Machakos last week, the Machakos Governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, and Senator Johnston Muthama are at loggerheads again.
Now, Muthama is claiming that the 120 special police cars that were unveiled are actually on loan and will cost the Machakos residents dearly. But Dr. Mutua has dismissed these claims as mere propaganda. Well, here's Angel Katusia to tell us more about that.
The engines of these police cars raved across television screens in Kenya last week, making Machakos County the envy of most other governors and citizens outside Machakos. But even as Governor Alfred Mutua proudly launched the comprehensive security program, somehow he expected a reaction from political critics.
Mimi sina wakati wa kupiga domo na kupiga siasa za pesa nane. Mimi nina wakati tu wa kuwahudumia wananchi.
But that criticism has already erupted, started by the Machakos Senator Johnston Muthama. Muthama insists the 120 cars are on a loan and the Machakos people cannot afford right now.
There are no vehicles bought in Machakos. It is so exaggerated issues. The vehicles are rented and each is paid 70,000 shillings per month, only to beat Muthama, only to silence Muthama and prove that Muthama is wrong with what he says.
But the governor says Muthama's allegations are unfounded sheer propaganda. In a statement posted on his official Facebook page, Mutua says that all the vehicles were budgeted for in the Machakos budget that was approved by the controller of budget and purchased through an open tender system. He shared with KTN a copy of the newspaper advertisement for the supply of the specialized motor vehicles. He further says that the county has not taken any loans and does not plan to, and that it is working on a proper financial management system to create development.
Senator Muthama here is an oversight authority in Machakos County to be allowed to provide oversight and say, hey guys, here you are going wrong, you are not doing it right, do it this way.
During my campaign for governor, I promised the people of Machakos that we will prioritize security so that every citizen can work and move freely without fear.
As political battles between Muthama and Mutua continue, a section of MPs from the Machakos County have announced plans to lobby residents to have Muthama removed from office for what they term as his opposition to the county's development projects. Angel Katusia, KTN.
Let's cross to another county now. An 11-member Senate committee has been set up to investigate the conduct of Embu Governor Martin Wambora and his deputy Dorothy Nditi.
The two have been accused by the Embu County Assembly of corruption, with the MCA saying that the two are unfit to sit in office.
Now, as KTN's Catherine Omwanto reports, the Senate committee begins their probe even as Wambora filed another petition to stop the Senate investigations.
The Senate resolves to establish a special committee comprising of the following senators.
The 11-member Senate committee includes James Orengo, Zipporah Kituny,
Boni Halwale, Lesuda Naisula, Kipchumba Murkomen, and Boy Juma Boy. Martin Wambora and his deputy Dorothy Nditi's proposed impeachment is the first of its kind under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and therefore everyone is eager to dot the I's and cross the T's.
The Speaker, I beg to second this motion. I want to urge that as this committee sits and hears the evidence, they would not have any consideration for Embu, because this is not a matter for Embu, although the specimen comes from Embu.
Being the first case of its kind, there are blurred lines when it comes to the impeachment of Embu Deputy Governor Dorothy Nditi.
There is no provision in law under the Constitution and under the County Governments Act on the procedure of impeaching the Deputy Governor. The Constitution and the County Governments Act only provides for the impeachment of the Governor.
Lawyer Charles Kanjama says that even though the Constitution does not provide for the impeachment of the Deputy Governor, since the two were elected on the same ticket, then the Deputy Governor can be impeached using the same process. According to Kanjama's reasoning, if a governor is successfully impeached, according to Article 182, Clause 2 of the Constitution, his or her deputy assumes office for the remainder of the term.
Move out. No, I won't go.
So if Wambora is impeached and Nditi takes over, the Embu County Assembly can again propose to impeach Nditi, who will be then subjected to the same process. It would seem that the Embu County Assembly members are just killing two birds with one stone. Kanjama further warns against impeaching the Embu Deputy Governor just because Wambora is being impeached. However, there is a matter of a court order filed by Wambora to stop the Senate impeachment procedure against him, saying that it is unconstitutional.
There were two processes of impeachment.
The Senate has until Friday to investigate both Martin Wambora and Dorothy Nditi before the whole House debates to have the two impeached or not. In the meantime, an alleged warrant of arrest has been issued by the Embu police boss against the Speaker of the Embu County Assembly and his clerk. News that the two were wanted by police prompted a protest by some members of the public in Embu town. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
The attempt to impeach the Embu governor and his deputy has brought another debate to the fore.
That's right, Ben. Some of the questions that are coming up are, what are the roles of the county assemblies, and are the members living up to the spirit of the Constitution? Well, Ashamwilu went to find out.
To a number of county governors and their deputies, the members of county assemblies have become thorns, perpetually pricking them on the sides. The Constitution and the county government laws give these members of county assemblies the duty to make laws for the county, to vet and approve nominees for county offices, approve the county budget, approve the borrowing of the county, and even approve the county development plan. So in a nutshell, the MCAs check on the excesses of the governor. But these crucial roles have seen county assemblies clashing publicly with the county governors and their executives. Makueni County Governor, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, was on the brink of resigning after his county assembly attempted to impeach him.
Today we have moved the notice of the motion of impeaching the Makueni County Governor, Kivutha Kibwana, who has failed to deliver his duties.
In Nyeri County, the script was the same. A section of the county assembly passed a vote of no confidence against Governor Nderitu Gachagua.
The county governor has grossly abused his office by disrespect members of the county assembly.
Sisi wote tulishauriwa tufanye kazi ile tulishauriwa tufanye, lakini si kuenda Nairobi unapatiwa 5,000 unarudi Nyeri unakoroga fitina, unarudi Nairobi unapatiwa 10,000 unakoroga fitina Nyeri. Shindwa kabisa.
As the proposed impeachment of the Embu Deputy Governor and Governor comes into focus, questions are now emerging on whether some of these members of county assemblies might be acting with ulterior motives. In Kitili County, the governor came under fire for taking his county assembly members on a trip to Israel. But Kitili is not the only county lavishing in foreign trips. MCAs from Taita Taveta went on a holiday to Zanzibar Island. Nyeri County went to Rwanda and Ethiopia on official visits. Machakos County Assembly has traveled to Israel, Turkey, and Dubai. Nairobi County went to Denver in the USA, while Mandera County also went to Israel. As county residents scrutinize just how their county governments spent their revenue last year, the members of the County Assembly will be under much criticism over just how well they are performing their roles. Ashamwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Away from the devolution teething problems, time now to take a look at what's happening in business. I take you down to our business studio where KTN's Boni Tunya is standing by with the latest. Boni, I understand the slump at the Nairobi Securities Exchange is coming to an end.
Right, we've seen a bit of positive numbers, Ben, coming in as early as this 3 p.m. today. But also there's a new name in the banking sector, and I have all those details. Take you. Changing tact. Eveready seeks to diversify its business interests from battery making.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Hello and good evening. My name is Boni Tunya and this is KTN Business. Nigerian bank Guarantee Trust Bank has injected over 2.5 billion shillings in its local operations, which it hopes will endear more Kenyans and to also attract Kenyans in this particular market. Here now is Michael Karanja with that report.
The success of West African financial institutions in Kenya over the last 6 years is mixed, and with Guarantee Bank joining the fray, analysts will be keen to assess its performance in a market dominated by homeboys like Equity, KCB Group, and Cooperative Bank. However, the bank says it has a different strategy to record success in this market.
The way we intend to do it is quite simple. First, you have to develop a bit of you have to make the balance sheet a bit bigger, which means you have to play some retail. You will then also have to play maybe high end of SME, high end of commercial, and some corporate, and give yourself a stronger balance sheet.
For Nigeria's 6th most profitable bank, it's not about gaining top spot. It's about changing the banking experience in Kenya and the rest of the East African region. Guarantee Bank is Nigeria's largest lender by market capitalization at $5 billion. With a 2.5 billion shilling equity injection, the bank hopes to tap on the emerging lending opportunities in East Africa with an eye on the oil sector. GT Bank will be taking on established players in the market such as KCB, Equity, Barclays and Standard Chartered Bank in its pursuit of breaking into the Tier 1 group of banks. 20% of the bank's business is in the upstream business of Nigeria's vast oil sector and has eyed opportunities to replicate the same in Kenya.
I think it's developing in Kenya, and that just like everywhere else in the world, there's going to be a learning curve. What we will try to do is use our own local franchise to bridge that learning curve.
Retail banking is also a big ticket item the bank is hoping to cash on, as well as innovations such as social banking. Though expansion is not its primary concern, the bank hopes to be in Tanzania in the next 2 years, building on its Kenyan and Ugandan operations.
Right now, what we're doing is actually putting the 5-year strategic plan for this bank, which will guide how we lead our lives from now into 2018, which will be done in a couple of weeks.
Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
You may be wondering what happened to Eveready. Well, the battery manufacturer is seeking to diversify from its current core business as it prepares to reposition itself in this market. Philip Keitani tells us exactly how.
The last few years of battery manufacturing firm Eveready, 47 years locally, has been bumpy. Faced with rising competition and consumer trends, the Nakuru-based firm has seen its fortune thin out with little response. Key on its market threats has been the rural electrification program, which has seen a number of households connect to the national electricity grid. Coupled with this has been the vicious circle of counterfeit dry cells in the market that sells cheap. The growth of mobile phones in the market has also eaten on Eveready's revenue streams. The firm, however, remains optimistic that its new subsidiary will be key in generating new business lines out of its current core engagements. The firm says it is already engaging the Capital Market Authority for necessary approvals. In its financial year report ending September 2013, the listed firm reported a decline in profitability to 45.4 million shillings from 70 million shillings a year earlier, a clear indication on the need to diversify. Despite net revenue edging upwards of 1.4 billion shillings, the firm felt the full effect of the net income of a deferred tax item. These of finance costs jumped from 817,000 shillings a year earlier to 41.9 million shillings. For years now, Eveready East Africa has struggled to be on top of its game, but with very little success. But with the planned diversification process, the battery maker hopes that will be the goose that will lay the golden eggs. Philip Kaitan, KTN Business.
The Nairobi Securities Exchange recorded marginal gains in today's trading, putting a pause in a 6-day drive south that saw the market shed its positive run. Here now is Adelaide Changola with those numbers.
The past 1 week saw the market take a plunge south, with the benchmark 20-share index slipping fast past the 5,000 psychological mark as foreign buyers exited the market. According to analysts, investors offloaded nearly $1 billion shillings worth of stocks against purchases of 470 million shillings, casting a black shadow over the boss's fortunes. The drop was linked to the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank's announcement of a second month of stimulus cutback. The U.S. has been pumping $85 billion into its economy every month since the 2008 financial crisis in a bid to keep interest rates low, thereby helping the U.S. recover from the worst economic slowdown since the Great Depression. But because the U.S. has been on the mend over the last few years, the country is cutting $10 billion off the stimulus every month, a fact that has affected markets throughout the world, including Kenya. The drop at the NSE could also be the result of normal market correction, as investors who had bought their shares at low prices last year take advantage of the price rally to sell their stocks at a profit.
Once there's been a rally and people sell, it causes a reduction in demand and supply increases, and so there's usually a slight dip in the market.
Regardless of the reason, companies with huge market capitalization have been hit by the downturn. For instance, the country's biggest company by capitalization, Safaricom, saw its share price fall from the all-time high of 12 shillings and 45 cents to 11 shillings and 50 cents per share, reducing its market valuation by 38 billion shillings in the process. But all is not lost.
As long as the middle class is expanding and people are moving from poverty to middle class, you will find growth.
And on a positive note, the NSE gained today, reversing some of the losses it has made over the last few days. Analysts say this is a sign that the fundamentals are still sound and that the boss is poised to post better results going forward. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The Agricultural Finance held a joint consultative forum with the cane farmers in the Chemelil Sugar Belt and the Kenya Sugar Board with an aim of rejuvenating its operations in the sector. Now, among the issues discussed were the resuscitation of the ailing sector, which is suffering a glut as sugar imports take their toll as producers, as well as the high cost of inputs that have priced Kenyan sugar out of the regional market.
My real issue here is especially on the illegal sugar in the market and the VAT on sugar, on the sugar cane. In fact, I'm taking the issue back to Parliament and we are going to debate. They cannot tax the cane farmer and also have VAT on what? On sugar.
There is no institution, financial institution, that can give you loans at interest of 5%. So you cannot complain about the issue of interest rate, isn't it? It's the cheapest in the market. And we want to urge farmers to take advantage of the low rates.
We both know business doesn't end without a look at the numbers, so here's today's financial market review. Right, so that's how your business looks like on the day that Britain overtook Safaricom as the most active counter, moving just about 6.7 million shares. We have the numbers again tomorrow. My name is Bonnie Tunya. Back to Ben.
Thank you, Bonnie, for that. Now let's Take you to a top story in the controversy surrounding the notorious Masjid Musa Mosque in Mombasa entered its third day after police stormed the mosque in Mombasa on Sunday and arrested 129 people over terror-related activities. The fact that several minors are also in remand has drawn sharp criticism from local leaders, although police insist some of the minors have already been brainwashed into criminal activities. They have been charged with engaging in terrorism activities at the Masjid Musa and will spend 5 days in remand with grown men suspected to be terror sympathizers.
And that is our point of discussion this evening. We're actually asking you whether you believe that the minors who were arrested at the Masjid Musa Mosque should be released. And thank you for your feedback so far. Let's take a look at some of your tweets. One here from Ramadan Muyika, who says, yes, they should be released by virtue of them being minors. The mosque administration should sort out the issues with security officials.
There's a no here from Yatich Zef who says no release the minors. The release of the minors should be subject to thorough investigations on their role in radicalization among Mombasa youth.
Okay, another note from Hillary Kipchumba, who says that their criminal acts would have had painful consequences and they should be taken to a rehabilitation center.
Ramadan Muyika finally here, yes, by virtue of minors, mosque administration should sort the issues with security officials.
Well, do keep sending in your responses. We'll take a look at the poll results at the end of our bulletin. We now head over to our sports studio. Nicholas Mudimba is giving us the latest in sports. Now, Nick, it's going to be a good year for women's rugby in Kenya, isn't it?
Absolutely, because actually the continent will be coming over in Kenya for the African Championships. You should be held in Machakos, and of course today we have more on you, bringing you even the goal that Chelsea had to struggle and get at Etihad Stadium. All that is after a short break.
Is it possible to swim 9,000 kilometers across sea to safety?
Coming up in sports, we will tax you heavily. KRA FC wants Premier League clubs.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Time now for KTN Sports. I am Nicholas Mudimba. Clubs joining the Kenyan Premier League for the first time have in the past struggled to stay afloat. KRA, which will be making its debut this year, had trained its Arsenal, the big boys, with the team aiming not being part of the league but to be competitive. Moses Wahisi with that report.
After years of heartbreak following previous failure to clinch a promotion to the Kenyan Premier League, Kenya Revenue Authority Football Club finally broke the ceiling and will be among the 16 teams that will battle it out for the 2014 title. The tactician Ken Kenyatta understands that by their dominance in the lower league, the Kenyan Premier League is a different ball game altogether.
This is a league that we have looked for it for so many years that we cannot take it for a ride. We have to take it seriously.
Kitu ya kwanza tumeng'ang'ana tukaingia league. Kitu ya pili hatuendi relegation. Tunaenda kufight kwanza hiyo game ya kwanza hiyo yenye tuna travel Bandari tunaendea point.
KRA did not go for big names while blustering their squad unlike their competitors. Former Tusker FC striker Joseph Emeka joined the tax collectors side together with Milton Milomo and Claston Mweresa, both from KCB. Import Emmanuel Obina together with former Gor Mahia defensive midfielder Ivan Anguyo also joined the side. Anguyo failed to impress while at Gor Mahia, but his main drive is to shine while at his new home.
Working towards regaining what I've lost, what I've not been playing for a while, but I think with time I'll be getting more play time.
The side's top scorer while in the National League, Joseph Mulume, will be expected to be on his normal goal-scoring form as the debutants take each match a step at a time.
For kila game, tutakuwa tunachukua ka finali.
The issue of that we are underdogs, let them forget. We are not underdogs. It's a good side that they need to be ready for this side.
Debutants KRA are spirited to clinch the 2014 Kenya Premier League Championship, but the first test will be against Mbakari side at the Mbakari Stadium. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
Thank you, Moses. Now, to rugby matters, Kenya has been honored with the hosting rights of the 2014 Confederation of Africa Rugby Women's Cup. The Kenya Rugby Union delegation currently in South Africa reports that Kenya convinced the IRB leading seminar in Cape Town that it has the facilities to host the continental event. KRU has appointed Machakos as the host city. The competition will feature 8 teams. The teams are South Africa, Tunisia, Senegal hosts Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Madagascar and Namibia. Morocco had also sent bids to host, but Kenya was chosen instead. A look at men's volleyball now. Italy-based George Ndungu is the only new inclusion in the Kenya men's volleyball team for this week's Africa World Cup qualifier. Ndungu will be the team's libero. Coach Gideon Chenje kept faith in his regular lead by attacker Philip Maiyo. Kenya, Egypt, Zambia, Botswana and Cape Verde will each be seeking to complete the remaining slots preserved for Africa. The World Championships are set for August in Warsaw, Poland. The 12-man squad picked today are setters Daniel Kipto and Elisha Aliwa. Solo Fula, Wesley Rono, Sila Makiso will man the center court. Others are Dennis Mukua, Cornelius Kiplagat, Michael Chemos, Bernard Musumba, James Ontere, Philip Maiyo and John Ndungu. Kenya will open her count against Cape Verde on Thursday at 4 p.m. Now, what's happening to Kenyan tennis? For the second successive week, Kenyan players have failed to sparkle at the International Tennis Federation Under-18 tournament at Nairobi Club. Foreigners who would have prepared for the tournament continue to sweep the balls in both singles and doubles competition. For the first leg, Nicola proved to be a force to reckon, and her prowess has not fallen short as she registered a victory of 2 sets to love in sets of 6-3, 7-5 against a resilient Amelie Boy from Mauritius, and she'll take Zimbabwean Nicole Zenga in tomorrow's tie. Sap Abergun from Turkey secured a 2 straight set victory over Jos Pistorius of sets 6-2, 6-2 to book a slot against Parjwal Dev from India. Kenyans have not been able to go past the semi-final stage in this leg, and their only hope was boys doubles pairing Calvin Chariot Lagat and Ibrahim Kibet, who were eliminated by Udayan Bukar from India and his Italian partner Sasha Maretti from Italy. Right, in that sports, I'm Nicholas Mudimba. Have yourself a good night.
KTN Weather Forecast, brought to you by Mortein Doom Cockroach Killer.
In cracks where cockroaches hide, use Mortein Doom Power Guard in drains to kill them before they come out. Spray Mortein Doom Power Guard in dustbins too. Mortein Doom! The ultimate cockroach killer.
Now, as we end our bulletin this evening, some incredible news. A man who says he was lost at sea for more than a year is actually back on dry land.
Well, he says he drifted from Mexico to the Marshall Islands in the North Pacific. That's some 9,000 kilometers away.
Well, investigators are now trying to determine if this is an amazing tale of survival or just a hoax.
Appeared to have difficulty walking as he stepped off the boat that brought him to safety. But otherwise, the long-bearded man seemed in good condition.
He's talked about joint pain several times. I know he'd like a haircut, but he looks very good. He's sharp, and I'm certainly no medical professional, but I think that he's in much better shape than one would expect after such an ordeal.
He calls himself Jose Salvador Alvarenga and says he's 37 years old. Alvarenga told authorities in the Marshall Islands that he was lost at sea for 13 months before washing up on an island in the Pacific nation.
It sounds like quite an incredible sea story of a man that went out fishing for one day and expected to return to his port on the west coast of Mexico, but he was blown off by a storm.
The castaway told officials he survived by eating fish and turtles he had caught. He would drink rainwater and sometimes his own urine. Authorities in the Marshall Islands are trying to determine if the story is true. The trip from the west coast of Mexico across the Pacific to the Marshall Islands is roughly 5,600 miles or 9,000 kilometers of open ocean. Although such an amazing ordeal isn't unheard of, 3 Mexican fishermen survived a similar journey in 2006. Alvarenga told authorities he and a companion set out for what they thought would be a one-day fishing trip.
It sounded very much like it was a storm. He talked about north wind and waves and being blown off course and then losing a companion at sea as well.
His teenage companion, Alvarenga says, died 4 weeks into their drift. Rafael Romo, CNN, Atlanta.
Well, that is a pretty remarkable story. Ben, how long do you think you'd survive on the ocean?
I don't believe that guy. I don't believe that guy.
Don't you think it's possible, though?
Maybe.
But not a year. A year is a really long time.
A year is a bit too long. I don't believe that guy. But more importantly, on the big question tonight as we wind up, we were asking you, do you think the miners arrested at the Masjid Musa, that is a mosque in Majengo, Mombasa, on Sunday should be released? What's the poll, Nancy?
Well, we're looking at 63% saying no, and 63% saying yes, and 37% saying no. Thank you for your comments this evening. Let's take a look at some of your tweets. Nicholas Wenda says, yes, the miners should be released, and whoever sent them should be the one to be put behind bars.
Redfoot on Twitter says, no child should be released if police believe they are radicalized. If they are, they need counseling, and parents should be questioned.
Okay, Victor Ambuli says, no, those youth should be prosecuted since they had availed themselves for that event, yet there was an Al-Shabaab flag.
Stephen Joy says, yes, the miners are just being exploited to push some people's agenda. The government should get those who are behind it.
One here from Sammy Adura, who says, let the police do the investigations and let's stop being so judgmental.
Another one here, I'm sorry, but let the law take its place so that our country can be safe. Many thanks for participating on the big question tonight. My name is Ben Kitili. Have a wonderful night.
I'm Nancy Kacungira. Thank you for joining us this evening and hope to see you tomorrow.